Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg. I am here today to do one of my book haul revisits. This is where I look at book hauls from this month in previous years. In this case, I'm going to look at two different years of book hauls, January of 2020 and January of 2021. And I'm going to look at the books that I hauled in those months to see how many of them I have read, how many I have unhauled, if any, and maybe think about which ones I still want to read and which ones I might want to unhaul. Now, in my book haul videos, I usually talk a great deal about the plot of each book. So if you want information like that, I will link the original book haul videos in the description box down below, and I would recommend that you check that out because I'm going to try to avoid talking about the plot in detail in this video. I might talk about it a little bit, but by and large, I'm going to try to stay away from it. So let's start with the January of 2020 book haul because that is the one that is further away. It's also the larger one. I tended to have smaller book hauls last year because I managed to get that under control a little bit. So the 2021 is pretty big. The first one is something that I unhauled because I hated it. It was American Dirt by Jeanine Cummins. Not really going to go into all the reasons I didn't like it. I thought it was a little stereotypical. It always went for the lowest common denominator. You've heard about this book, probably. If you haven't, Google it. There's a fair amount of controversy around this book. And, you know, there were some people who defended it after the fact. I was not one of them. I did not think this was a great book. I think if you are looking for a book on this subject, read Infinite Country instead. You'd be much better off. So I read this one for the BookTube prize, actually. Did not like it and got rid of it pretty quickly. The next one is The Big Goodbye, Chinatown in the Last Years of Hollywood by Sam Wasson. This is the guy who wrote Fifth Avenue, 5 a.m. I believe he wrote Fosse, which is the book that the TV show Fosse was based on. Yes, he wrote Fosse, which I have read. I listened to that one on audio. I'm likely to listen to this one on audio at some point whenever I get around to it as well, but this was something that was sent to me. I didn't pay for it, and I'm happy to have it waiting around until I get to it. I didn't have any plans to get to it in a hurry in 2020. I don't have any plans to get to it in a hurry now, but it is something I'm interested in. If you follow along, you know Hollywood and Oscar-ish movies are an obsession of mine. So this is right in that area, and I'm still interested in it. I just need to get around to it whenever I have a moment. The next one is a success story. I read it and I liked it. It's Real Life by Brandon Taylor. This was one of my almost favorite reads of 2021. I'll link that video in the description box down below. I ended up listening to it on audio. I did it for the BookTube prize, and I liked it a lot, as you can tell, since it was one of my almost favorite reads of 2021. So there you go. There's one that I read and liked and therefore kept. The next one is another success story, Conditional Citizens by Laila Lalami. This is also something that I read last year. I liked it, didn't love it, but I thought it was very interesting, and look at that, I'm on a roll, which is going to continue because the next book is A Single Man by Christopher Isherwood, which I also read last year and is another one of my almost favorite reads of 2021. This is a pocket edition from Picador Modern Classics. I ended up listening to it on audio, and the audio is pretty fantastic, so I would recommend that. But great book, and I'm happy I got around to it because I had been wanting to read more Isherwood for a long time. And now my winning streak ends because we get to Out by, it only shows the last name on the spine of the book. It is Natsuo Kirino, translated by Stephen Snyder. I purchased this because I was really obsessed with these vintage Japan books. At the time, I had gotten some in previous book hauls, and this was the one that fell into the January 2021. You can just see they're really pretty. It still sounds like a really interesting book, and I would still like to read it, so it's going to be fine hanging out on my shelves. Now we're back to a success story, The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. I purchased this in January of 2020 because it was supposed to be one of the prongs of my reading goal for that year, which ended up being so complicated that I just kind of canceled it. But I did get around to reading this one, although last year, not in 2020. This was a buddy read I did with Erica from The Broken Spine. She went on and read the other books in the trilogy. I have not yet. I probably will at some point, but I don't feel any urgency to do it, even though this one ends on a cliffhanger. Some of the things about this book kind of irritated me enough that I just wanted to hold off. I liked it, but I didn't want to immediately continue with the next books. So at some point, I'll get around to it. I don't feel like I need to purchase them. I'll say that. Maybe I'll wait for an audio of both of them. But so I have this. I don't know if I'm going to keep it because it takes up, it's a big book. I'm probably going to keep it at least until I read the other two books because there's a lot of supplemental material, although that makes me think I should read the other two books in print, not on audio. I don't know. I haven't decided, so it's doing fine just hanging out on my shelves for now. The next one is Such a Long Journey by Rohinton Mistry. I purchased this in January of 2020 because I was planning a buddy read of it, and that ended up not happening. So I still have it. I would still like to read it because A Fine Balance by Rohinton Mistry was my second favorite book of 2019. So I would love to read another book by him, and because of that, I'm totally fine letting this just hang out on my shelf until I get around to it. The next one is something that I read as part of a buddy read and didn't like, so I unhauled. It's Cloudstreet by Tim Winton. I know a lot of people love this book. I didn't. And I had some problems with it. But, a lot of people love it, and that's fine. I didn't like it, and I decided not to keep it on my shelf. That's me. The next one is more of a success story. It is Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry, which I did read in 2020. It was one of my favorite reads of that year. I'll link that video in the description box down below as well. This was something that I wanted to get to as part of my Pulitzer Prize project. I did a whole video on it. I'll put that in the description box down below as well. I loved it. Loved it a lot. And then I got 3 Sarah Waters books because in 2019 I listened to my first Sarah Waters book on audio. That was The Paying Guest, and I wanted to explore some more of her work. These 3 were at my local used bookstore, so I grabbed them. They're library builders. I didn't have any urgency to get to them, and I haven't gotten to them yet, but they are always there, and I will be looking to get to them. They are Affinity, Fingersmith, and Tipping the Velvet. So if you have recommendations on which one to try first, please let me know in the comment section because I feel like I've heard the most about Fingersmith, but I'm open to suggestions. So let me know what you think in the comment section down below because, these are just library builders. I'm going to read more Sarah Waters at some point, just don't know when. And the last book is something that I did not read but got rid of anyway because I just needed space and thought about the likelihood that I would ever get to it. It was Tightrope by Nicholas Kristof and Sheryl WuDunn. And I figured if I was going to get to it at all, it would be on audio. So I had put a hold on the audio and I just kept pushing it back because I guess I kind of realized I was interested enough to have grabbed a copy, but not interested enough to actually do it. So I let it go. And it is what it is. So there were 14 books that I hauled in January of 2020, and I read 7, which is good. That's half. For a large book haul, that's a really good result. I unhauled 3, but that's fine. Let's talk about January of 2021 now. January of 2021 is a smaller book haul. There are only 8 books. Let's see what happens. The first book is The Prophets by Robert Jones Jr., which is something I read and loved. It was one of my favorite reads of 2021. I will link that video in the description box down below. So big success story here. Then there was My Friend Dahmer by Derf Backderf, which is a graphic memoir. He went to high school with Jeffrey Dahmer and he writes about it here. I did read it. It was a very quick read. I don't do a lot of true crime, and I think what got me into this one was just that interesting angle that he was remembering his experience and the way the news about Jeffrey Dahmer kind of tinted his memories of high school and the bit of hindsight that came with it. It was a very interesting book. Long story short, I did get around to reading it. So it's a success story as well. I think the rest of this is going to be a little bit bleak in terms of success stories, but let's take a look. The next one is Born to be Posthumous, The Eccentric Life and Mysterious Genius of Edward Gorey. This is a big, big book. I have not gotten around to reading it yet, but it's something that I want to read, so I'm going to be fine keeping it because this book came out a long time ago, I'm going to look at the copyright date and we'll see. It's copyright 2018. In the years since, it was never released in paperback. It never showed up in my library. It never showed up on any of my subscription apps. So the only way I will ever read this book would be to order it, which is what I did. I had a gift card in January of 2020 and I ordered it and it came in. So purchasing it is the only way I was ever going to get to read it. So I'm fine with this, and I would like to get around to it someday. I would love to know more about Edward Gore's life. I've enjoyed his work, and I've heard he had a very weird life. So it's something that I still want to do, and the only way I was ever going to get a chance to do it was ordering this copy of the book. So it's fine. It can stay on my shelf, and we'll see. I'm a little surprised I didn't get to A Boy's Own Story by Edmund White, because I had a great sense of urgency to do this, and I really want to read an Edmund White book. I have not done that yet. I think this is a good contender for my Pride Month pile of possibilities. Every June I read LGBTQ books, so this is a good contender for that for this year, if I haven't gotten around to it by then, because I would definitely like to do it. And I have a memoir of his called City Boy as well, but I think this is the one that I would probably want to read first. So I haven't gotten to it yet. Still would like to, and I'm hoping that I will get to it in 2022. We'll see how that goes. The next one is another one that I'm surprised I didn't get to because I had a sense of urgency to get to it. It's Cantoras by Carolina de Robertis. I've heard really great things about this book. And again, this one, like A Boy's Own Story, is a prime candidate for my Pride Month pile of possibilities this year, if I haven't gotten to it before then, which is likely. So I definitely would still like to get around to this book and read it. I've heard many, many really great things about it, and I would love to try it for myself. Then there were two books that were recommendations from Sean the Book Maniac. I'm going to hold the back of this one because the front has a little bit of nudity. It's A Matter of Life and Sex by Oscar Moore. This is a library builder. It was Sean the Book Maniac talked about it. It sounded really interesting to me, so I found a copy online, and here it is. So I haven't gotten to it, but that was never the intention. I wasn't in any kind of hurry. It's going to be there whenever I'm in the mood to get around to it. And the same is true of this next book, which is Safe as Houses. Also something Sean the Book Maniac talked about. Also something that's more of a library builder. And I had to special order it because I believe it's out of print. And yeah, it's going to be there whenever I'm ready for it. I don't know that I would prioritize either one of these for my Pride Month pile of possibilities, because that pile, as you can imagine, is already looking unwieldy. I haven't even finalized it yet, but I have too many candidates for it. So this is just going to be on my shelf for whenever I get around to it. It sounds like a really interesting book as well. Again, Sean talked about it and it just piqued my interest. So I'm totally fine keeping it. And then another failure, The Removed by Brandon Hobson. This sounded like a really interesting book. I haven't gotten around to it. At this point, I'm thinking that if I do this, it's more likely to happen on audio. So I haven't decided if I'm going to keep the physical book yet. It does have a very pretty cover, for whatever that's worth. It definitely has that. It does sound interesting. I would probably still like to read it. I don't have any urgency to get to this. I probably had more urgency in January of 2021 when I first got it, and then it just faded over time. And I haven't really heard too much about it from other people. And maybe that's part of it. So if you've read this, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger right now and get rid of it, but it is a candidate for an unhaul if I haven't gotten to it by this time next year. And that is what it is. So 2021 was a smaller book haul. There were only 8 books, but my success rate was a lot smaller. I only read 2 books out of the 8, and that's really not good. But there were no unhauls, and there's one book that's edging toward possibly being an unhaul, but most of these were library builders, things I'd be happy to keep around and get to at some point. So that's good, at least. Overall, there were 22 books in my book hauls from January of 2020 and January of 2021. I only read 9. That's not great. It's not even half. It's funny that the bigger book haul is the one that I did better, or had a better track record in terms of actually reading, but what are you going to do? If you've read any of these books, have any thoughts, comments, let me know in the comment section down below. As always, I really appreciate your time, and I will be back. Until next time, happy reading.